In the last video, we created a Next.js API route that uses both Tensorflow and PGVector to get movie recommendations. In this video, we'll create a very basic frontend and connect it to that route API. As always, you can find helpful links in the description box below, and let's dive in. Last time we worked on recommendations TS, but now we'll go to index TSX. This is our front end. This is the landing page which we are going to change. It already has some boilerplate which we actually going to clean up. We don't need that sophisticated layout, at least not yet, and our version will look way more simple, at least at start. And we will create an empty parent container where what we need to have actually just two elements. We need some kind of a form where a user can type the description of a movie they want to watch. That form also should contain some kind of a button. And then we need a place where we will output all of those movies, all of those recommendations which we will get from the server. So let's do that. So the first element will be the form, and the second element will be a div with the movie recommendations. So in the form we will have first of all the input field and then a button. And the input will be of type search, and it will have an ID. Let's call it default search. And we can also have some kind of, not the class name we don't really need, but we need a placeholder. We need some kind of description what will be inside. For example, type what do you want to watch about. Do we need anything else? We will need a bit of other things a bit later, but now let's move to the button. The button will be of type submit. And that means that our form requires onSubmit properties, which will link to some kind of a function that we will run when the form is submitted. We can call it search. And also the input, because we are working with React.js, we need to reference that input field so that we can read the data from the input later. So let's reference it and call it search input. Neither search nor search input exist yet. Let's fix that here. Let's add the reference first for the search input. So we will use UseRef and we will include it from React for this. And also we need to create a function, a search function which will accept as some kind of event from the form. We're going to but what we will need is to get the search text entered by user and create a fetch request to the API. The search text we get by accessing our reference search input, then getting the current and the value, and now we're ready to fetch the data from the API side, the API which we created in the previous video. So it's located in API recommendations, and we are going to make a post request there. We can make two of those, but we are going to include the parameters inside the post request, this search input text which user entered. So it's more convenient to use post, and it will be part of the body. So we will need actually, we will call it search. Let's call it search, and it will be entered search input. Obviously, it will not work like that. We need to stringify the object so that we can send it to the API. So we use JSON, stringify, and convert, like to cover everything which we have there. And for the headers, we will need to define that as well. It will be content type application JSON. Now, once we get the response, we will need to do a couple of things with it. So first of all, we need to get JSON. And secondly, we need to use the data somewhere on our user interface page. And let's use it somewhere here. So like in that div container, which we prepared for the results, we will have some kind of movie plot object, which we didn't define yet. So let's do it. And it will be part of the state. This is how things work in React. We can create the state objects, though it will be state object movie plot, and also a setter for that to assign movie plots. Those are data which we got from the server side to the movie plots object. Also, remember that we are using TypeScript, so we can actually define the type of the object which we expect to have in the movie plots. And now we can call the method setMoviePlots, assign it data which we got from the server side. And by calling setMoviePlots, we assign the value to movie plots object, so we can now use it. We can do different things here, but we can just map over it, and for each item we can output some values. For example, we can output something like title. We can also add other properties. Let's think what exactly we can add. We can add the plot information so that we have it visible. One thing about React and the lists of items, we need to provide also the key property so that React remains happy and doesn't complain. For us, unique keys for the movies is the title. I'm not exactly sure that there are no duplicates of titles in the movie dataset, but since we don't have the IDs, titles are the closest to being the unique items for our key for React.js. So let's use the title. And technically this might already work. Let's go to the user interface and try it out. It should look exceptionally ugly. Yes, it does. And I have a feeling, because I'm using the dark mode on my Mac, the text is actually of white color in the input box, which is super weird. I think some default settings don't really work nicely. I didn't plan to use any CSS magic to the next video. However, I guess we do have to add a bit of it. So let's add the class name to the input field, and let's specify that we really want to have our text of black color. And let's see if this works. Yes, it does. There is still some issues. We're going to fix all the UI issues in the next video. However, for now, we just want it to be readable as much as possible. So let's search for something. For example, I don't know, Magic Castle. Let's search for Magic Castle and see what kind of movie recommendations we get. And we got some movies. It's totally not readable because I forgot the breaks between the lines. So yeah, there is something about castles, definitely. Let's add the breaks so that at least it's a bit more visible where the start of the title and where the end of the title. We can search for something else. For instance, let's find movies about lazy fat cats. Garfield, the first suggestion. I totally feel it's a relevant recommendation. Great, so it still looks pretty ugly. However, it works and we have a very simple UI. In the next video, we are going to use Tailwind CSS to make it a bit nicer. I'm not a designer, so don't expect a marvelously beautiful UI. However, we will make it decent. See you then!